Thanks to Disney's incompetence, I have all kinds of interesting Star Wars news that happened today. January 29th, Jake Lloyd update, statement from family. Jake Lloyd went through all kinds of harassment and mental problems and all kinds of things because of his portrayal of Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Today, a public announcement was made by his family. We would like to thank everyone for their kind words, their support, and goodwill. Jake has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, but unfortunately, he also has a symptom called anosognosia, which causes a lack of insight into his illness. This only adds to the struggle he faces, which has been very difficult after the tragic loss of his younger sister, Madison. He has moved closer to his family, and we are all working hard to help him with this. He is still a kind and caring person, and we hope to have him back to his fun and entertaining self as soon as possible. Jake will continue to make progress with the love and support you continue to show. He is going through a lot. He still is and has throughout the years, but it's nice to hear that he's maybe getting a grip on things and his family's supporting him. Hopefully he'll get better. I don't know why everybody made such a big deal. I thought he was fine. He was a little kid acting. I mean, what's the big deal? He was supposed to be a little weird. He's Anakin Skywalker. It was just sad how he was treated. This article also mentions Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. There'll be a link in the description if anybody wants to look at it. I just thought it was nice on my birthday to hear that a Star Wars actor is doing okay after he's been through so much. This morning, I came across a notification. I don't know this site, but it's called Disney.Trendalizer.com. And my video from yesterday, Obi-Wan series canceled and other Disney Plus failures, was picked up by it, and it's shared here. So as you can see, there's my video. There you go. Not my Star Wars. I just thought that was kind of neat for my birthday that it was picked up here by this site. Going off of that, bounding into comments, January 29th, Star Wars artist Jordan Mason reports Kenobi series being repurposed back into a movie. Star Wars artist and former contributor to StarWars.com, Jordan Mason, reports the Obi-Wan Kenobi series starring Ewan McGregor, which was expected to stream on Disney Plus, is being repurposed back into a feature film. Now, we don't know if this is true, but a tweet was picked up from the 23rd. Jordan did work for StarWars.com, so he does have insider connections. So we'll see what comes of this, but his tweet says, "Welp, since I've had more than 2 separate people tell me, I can share a tidbit. Seems like they were, or are, hard to say right now, considering shifting it back to a movie instead of a show. The lower episode count would mean they've considerably trimmed elements down. Hashtag Kenobi." This tells us a few things. Again, reaffirming my video from yesterday. The show is canceled. It would make sense for it to be a movie because down to 4 episodes, you're not going to do anything as a TV show or a streaming service show with 4 episodes. But those 4 episodes put into one story, a movie, makes more sense. I personally don't know how I feel about it. If a show or a movie, I still think the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing is a bad idea. Disney's track record shows it's not a good idea, but let's just pretend they get it right. I think a movie makes more sense. They've trimmed it down to more of a specific story, which means a movie, as opposed to breaking it up like The Mandalorian. And movies are much more profitable. It just kind of makes more sense to make a Ewan McGregor movie about Obi-Wan. We'll see where this goes, but an insider is telling us that it's being looked at to be brought back to a movie. Disney is just all over the place. They say it's a movie, then years later they say it's a show, and now here we are back to a movie again. This is from yesterday, January 28th. Artist sues Disney, Pixar over unicorn-adorned van and Onward. Here's the van from Onward. Sweet Cicely Danaher says her Vanicorn was copied without permission for the film under wickedly misleading pretenses. An artist named Sweet Cicely Danaher on Monday sued Disney, Pixar, and Onward producer Corey Ray for allegedly conspiring to secretly create an animated doppelganger of her one-of-a-kind van without permission. For over 2 decades, this girl has been documenting and taking photos of unicorns. She has a serious thing for unicorns, and that's part of her complaint in the case. In 2014, she published a book of her photographs called I See Unicorns. Disney is constantly taking other people's art and concepts and ideas to make their stuff. They have zero creativity at Disney. I don't know what happened to Disney. They used to be some of the top-notch forerunners of animation and creation, and Disney has just gone to total shit. Disney, Lucasfilm, all of it has just gone to total shit. I don't understand what's going on over there. The shareholders need to really, not just Kathleen Kennedy, really need to start looking at Robert Iger, because what are they doing over there? So you guys see how blatantly Disney is copying other people's content. Okay? So while this is cartoony and they're going to claim different, yeah, there's a moon here instead of a diamond, it's pretty obvious that this is that van. The wheels are similar, the tag here, and yes, there's a lot of vans, and it could look similar to a lot of vans, but be real. The color of the van, the unicorn, the lightning, Disney is literally taking people's stuff to make money off of you. Remember that the mouse does not give a fuck about you. It only cares about making money, even at the expense of other people's creations. This is Disney in 2020. Wow. So, do y'all think Pixar Disney stole the Vanicorn for their movie? Not cool. The story basically goes like this. The Pixar company had reached out to her to rent her van for a special event in September of 2018. She says she was told the Vanicorn would be used for an event limited to a one-day music festival activity for Pixar employees and families, and that the Vanicorn would just be a showpiece and not used in any way other than a visual prop. On May 31st, 2019, she discovered Pixar was producing Onward. She then posted the picture on Instagram. On June 3rd, she posted the image again with the caption, "Well shit, the producer of Onwards just called me. She wanted to know how I'm feeling and to apologize. She also wanted to tell me that they rented my van without disclosing their full intentions or plans, and she's sorry for that too." In the complaint, Danaher says, Ray apologized and admitted they intentionally didn't inform her that they intended to use the Vanicorn as a character in Onward because, at the time, the film didn't have a title, and without a title, they couldn't have her sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is total bullshit. Disney could have very easily said, hey, we want to use your concept in a Disney movie, we need you to sign an NDA, and that's that. But the reason they lied is because they don't want to have to pay her, the creator of this van, for rights for them to use it in the movie. This is how the mouse moves in 2020. Please keep this in mind. Disney does not give a fuck about you, Star Wars, anyone, or anything but money. They corrupt and damage their own talent, their own actors, their own park actors, anyone involved with Disney, Pixar, Lucasfilm. They're all shit on. Know this. January 28th, The Sound of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, Oscar Podcast 2020. Check this out. Supervising sound editors Matthew Wood and David Accord delve into the conceptual and sonic intricacies of evolving Force lightning and about working in stages from temp mixes to the final mix in a film with a legacy. They share experiences working playfully and dynamically with director J.J. Abrams, recording lines in actor Adam Driver's closet, and working on previous Star Wars films. This podcast will be in the description for you to listen to, but here's two key things I want you to hear.
If you have new lightsaber stuff, new TIE fighter stuff, new Chewbacca stuff, do you kind of dissect the way those sounds were originally built and recreate them, or what's your approach to that?
Yeah, that's the best and most straightforward approach is to just sort of, well, Ben Burt still works at Skywalker. We still see Ben every morning at breakfast, and he's an open book. You can ask Ben whatever you want about Star Wars, and I've known Ben for almost 20 years.
Yeah,
and I've definitely learned everything I know about Star Wars sound from Ben. Obviously, where else would you learn that from?
Right.
But one of the things is, as far to your question about TIE fighters, is what's the recipe for making the sound of a TIE fighter pass by? And it's this elephant scream, and this that's the main sound, is that TIE scream. But then there's this race car on wet pavement sound that kind of goes under it.
So as he stated, they're creating new sounds, new lightsaber sounds, new TIE fighter sounds. Now one can argue, if it's a new movie and there's new ships, right? There's new variations of TIE fighters. Fine, you may need to create new sounds to tweak them. But a lightsaber sound does not change. Lightsaber is a lightsaber, and they have always sounded the same. dark side and light side. There is no creating new lightsaber sounds. Why do they do this? As I've explained before, Lucas gets a cut. Sounds, images, characters. When they use Lucas's stuff, they have to write Georgie a check. So what Disney does is they play it off as if they're innovating and creating new stuff. This is why they killed Luke Skywalker and why the sequel trilogy ended up the way that it is. The Lucasfilm is not as lost as they pretend to be. A lot of it is maliciously doing away with the old things because they don't want to have to write Georgie a check. I have no doubt in my mind that Robert Iger from the beginning said, listen, Kathleen, you need to make Star Wars a Disney thing now. You got to get rid of all that old stuff. We can't be writing George checks, and we need to have everyone understand that Star Wars belongs to the mouse now. It's no longer George Lucas and his effects, sounds, images, characters. This is why this is happening, because they don't want to pay Lucas, and they want you to believe that Star Wars is Mickey Mouse, that Disney is creating these fantastic stories. Have you forget that George Lucas created this beautiful franchise for us. I also want you to notice that they mentioned Ben Burtt still works at Skywalker Sound. Ben Burtt was with George Lucas from day one. He was the sound designer on all the Star Wars movies, 1 through 6. There wasn't another guy or a go-to guy. It was all Ben Burtt that did all the sound effects for Star Wars. All these beautiful sounds we know. Explosions and TIE fighters going by, X-Wings landing, lightsabers, Chewbacca, R2, all that stuff was Ben Burtt. He works at Skywalker Sound still, but he's not on the sound design of Star Wars. Why? Because if he was working on Star Wars, he would naturally use the sounds. Not only do they have a vault of sounds that they can work with, but they don't want him recreating and creating new stuff because they have to write George a check. So I'm sure that Ben must feel pretty terrible that he's at Skywalker Sound, although he's probably happy he still has a job, but he's not involved in Star Wars. The guy that created all the sounds that we know and love for Star Wars works at Skywalker Sound, but is not working on Star Wars. It's Matthew Wood and David Accord. Ben Burtt talks about why he's not involved in the new Star Wars films anymore. 12/16/2017. When asked about why he hasn't worked on the newest films, he said, I don't know if there's bad blood. Nobody, ... I was just never consulted or hired to do any of them. No one's ever told me why. No, I was told on the new regime, I was just told, just stay in your room and make sounds and just send stuff to us. We'll decide what to do. Now, Disney's excuse is that they wanted a new generation to start working on Star Wars films, to give them an opportunity. But you're talking about a guy that has made every Star Wars sound since the beginning. It's disrespectful and it's just foolish. Why would you not have Yoda do the sound? It's just completely airheaded. A quick look at Ben Burtt's work. War of the Worlds, Star Wars A New Hope, of course, the Holiday Special, Invasion of Body Snatchers, Alien, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Blade Runner, Dark Crystal, Indiana Jones, Nutcracker, Willow, Indy, Blue Planet, Young Indy, all the Indiana Jones, Star Wars games, Bounty Hunter, Attack of the Clones, Knights of the Old Republic, 1 and 2, Revenge of the Sith, Empire at War, Indiana Jones, Lego Star Wars, WALL-E, Star Trek, Force Unleashed 2, Red Tails, Star Trek, Battlefront. He did do sound design on Force Awakens, but then he didn't work on Solo, Rogue One, Last Jedi. Now he is credited here for Jedi vocal design. I'm the type of person that, especially a blockbuster film, but Star Wars films, all of them, all 9, I sit in the theater to the very end. When I mean the very end, where all the credits go through. For example, at the end of Phantom Menace, if you watch it to the very, very end, it ends with Vader breathing. After all the credits, it's giving you the foreshadowing of baby Anakin becoming Darth Vader. So when it comes to a Star Wars movie, I watch all the credits. I don't remember Ben Burtt's name being there. Now, granted, I saw it in the theaters only once. It's a lot to take in, that just overload of movie. But I don't remember Ben Burtt's name showing up. He's a person that would jump out to me, someone that I was looking for in the credits. I'm not saying that he's 100% not there. I don't know. We'll have to wait till the Blu-rays come out, I guess. But I don't remember seeing his name there. However, the only credit he has here is for the Jedi vocal design. He's not even involved in the movie really at all, except for I guess the Ghost Jedi's at the end, which was a last second thing. I also might as well mention it, as some of you are going to listen to the podcast, something I've been holding on to, and I might as well just mention it. As I watched the credits very closely, I picked up on something that I have not heard anybody mention. Dio, that stupid vacuum cleaner, whatever little droid that does absolutely nothing, that droid is J.J. Abrams. That droid exists for one reason only, so that J.J. could get a cameo in his stupid little movie. In the podcast, they talk about how it didn't start that way, it changed over time, but that's bullshit. J.J. Abrams created Dio so that he could be in the movie. And if you think back, what does that little droid do? He just bumps into people and talks and says little stupid things. There's a scene where he's doing circles around the other droids. So that's where Dio comes from. The droid that doesn't do anything, but then at the end ends up having the Sith map or information or whatever, which was stupid. You deprogrammed C-3PO and then Dio just had the damn information anyways. The whole thing was so stupid. But Dio is J.J. Abrams. Anyways, as you can see, Ben Burtt is kind of important in sound design, especially when it comes to Star Wars. He did everything Star Wars, and now he's been reduced to sitting in an office, just send us stuff and we'll decide what to do with it. When he was integral and worked on every piece of those projects, he would go to Lucas and consult about everything. So there you go, Ben Burtt, one of the most important sound designers in all of movie history, and KK doesn't want him on Star Wars. Here's the second part of what I want you to hear. You're going to love this.
What's the oddest place you've done an ADR recording session?
The very last recording we did was we had to change some lines of Kylo when he had his mask on. I went to his house in Brooklyn. He had just got a new area to work, like his office, and so there was no furniture. And so I had to come in there and
it was just an echo chamber.
Yeah, so I ended up opening up one of his closets where he had all of his suits, and I just pushed the suits out of the way and said, hang your head in here. And I put the mic in there and I gave him the headphone and I fed everything in there and I closed the doors behind him and pushed him into the room. So we did those. And I was able to like get Source Connect connected to JJ back in LA. And then,
so he monitored the session.
Oh, he monitored. That's the other thing that we do. We do it live. So JJ can be watching. I have a laptop set up for JJ with Source Connect so he can watch in sync.
Wow.
And so then we looped those last 2 or 3 lines in stuffed in there, and then JJ, and then Adam left to go do like Seth Meyers' show like immediately after that.
So admittedly, 3 days before the film is done, they're recording Kylo's dialogue. I know that this is 3 days because the Seth Meyers show that they talked about was on November 21st, 2019. If you remember, in my very first video, The Rise of Skywalker was finished yesterday, I reported that on November 25th, J.J. Abrams admitted that the day before, November 24th, a Sunday, is when they finished The Rise of Skywalker. And on November 21st, they're recording audio for The Rise of Skywalker. These guys are ADRs. Automated Dialogue Replacement. Automated Dialogue Replacement is the process of re-recording dialogue by the original actor after the filming process to improve audio quality or reflect dialogue changes, also known as looping or a looping session. So admittedly, he tells you that 3 days before, they're finishing up audio of Kylo Ren. Why? Because they were doing literally last minute changes to this movie. And what big change did they make in this movie that everybody there at Lucasfilm is claiming they knew about? And we know they're lying about. Emperor Palpatine.
You don't just have power. You have his power. You're his granddaughter. You are a Palpatine.
The last minute they put in Palpatine to the point of they had to 3 days before have Adam Driver in his closet. They had to send an ADR to his house. This is how cheap Disney is and how out of time that Disney was, that they couldn't have fixed all of this and done it before because 3 days before they're in Adam Driver's closet recording. Even Daisy didn't know it. This was a last minute thing to have Emperor Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. This is how clusterfuck Disney is with Star Wars. It's embarrassing. And all this stuff is leaking now and releasing. It's just ridiculous. Here's one more little tidbit for you.
And the other one was for Ian McDiarmid. When we were doing the Emperor stuff, there was a VO that we wanted to change where he's explaining to all the things that are going to happen bad to her friends if she doesn't sacrifice him. And that was kind of a montage sequence, and we wanted to change some of the dialogue there.
They don't have long. No one is coming to help them. And you are the one who led them here. Strike me down. Take the throne. Reign over the new empire, and the fleet will be yours. Only you have the power to save them. Refuse, and your new family dies.
We couldn't get, Ian was like way in remote Scotland where he lives and doesn't have good Wi-Fi, can barely pick up cellular coverage, but I was able to get a little Apogee microphone sent to him, and I told him over the phone how to hook it into the iPhone and work it. Yeah, I gave him that mic, and it was a time difference, so he's up really late after a party, and he's like, I'm gonna have to wait till the wind dies down because he's right on the ocean. And so he recorded all these scenes, and I'm listening. He had another phone that I could listen to him with, and then we got the recordings, and you have to send it through iMessage. So he's trying to send it, and it's not, the little zip file's not going, and he had to walk down to the beach like in the middle of the night, lightning storm. So he's trying to find cell coverage to see that the thing says delivered on my iMessage to me, and he's like, and I'm like, oh, please don't let the Emperor get struck by lightning.
Yeah, oh, the irony.
Yeah, and he said it was like being on Exegol. It was exactly the same, big lightning everywhere. And we got those files and put them in like 3 days before we finished. But those were fun times.
That's why you needed it right away, because you guys were coming down to the wire.
We were coming down to the wire. Yeah, a lot of things.
Disney is so disorganized. If they had planned out these movies and actually knew the scripts and weren't improvising everything and changing everything at the last minute, they would have handled this months ahead of the movie. But instead, they're having to do things all the way in Scotland through an iPhone to get dialogue, obviously last minute dialogue, where Palpatine is talking to Rey about this is the only way you're going to save your friends. That ending scene with Palpatine was literally like the last week of production of The Rise of Skywalker. It's ridiculous. And they're so cheap, they didn't fly him out or send a crew to him. They're over an iPhone sending iMessages of the dialogue for the movie. This is Disney. This is Lucasfilm in 2020 doing stuff over an iPhone. Supposed to be the biggest movie of all time, and they're doing stuff over an iPhone. It's ridiculous. And he admittedly said it was within the last 3 days of the stuff that we were finishing. They literally, in the same week, did the Palpatine voiceover audio to correct the changes in the final scene, and they also had Adam Driver in a closet making the correction to Rey that Palpatine is your grandfather, that she's a Palpatine. This is in the last week of a $300 million film by Disney and Lucasfilm. They are just all over the place. 5 hours ago, all major infos from Tross Visual Dictionary. Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi. It was only the Sith cultist Tashu acolytes who survived. They admit that Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi, but at the last minute, for The Rise of Skywalker, they brought in Palpatine. There it is. They had already acknowledged that Palpatine was dead, and at the last minute they had to do something, and they brought in Palpatine. Now, was this Kathleen? Was it JJ? Was it the group, the storyboard group? Like, what are we going to do? Well, we'll bring back Palpatine. I don't know who made the decision or the exact date when they did, but it is confirmed, as we have known, that this was a last-minute decision. Number 14. One Sith ritual explains that one must sacrifice a loved one to unlock new insights of the dark side. And then there's an example here, Ben killing Han. Well, first of all, he's not Ben, he's Kylo. And this is total bullshit. This is Disney trying to cover their tracks, because there is no such ritual. There is no such thing in any Star Wars lore that you have to kill a loved one to become a Sith. That's never been the case. You just have to be an asshole and full of hate and be drawn to the dark side. There has never been a rule of that you must sacrifice a loved one to gain new insights to the dark side. This is a Disney creation, and it's their way of justifying Kylo killing Han. Instead of just saying the dude was bad. Now they're trying to say, well, he did it because he was trying to get insights to the dark side, but really he didn't want to do it. He was forced into it. That's why he killed Han. And that's why he didn't later kill Leia, because he already made his sacrifice. You see how Disney's trying to fix their holes? This is bullshit. That has never been a stipulation of the dark side. You do not have to kill a loved one. Furthermore, many Darksiders don't have a family. They're kids, young adults, whatever the case, that are often on their own and choose their own path. They don't necessarily have a family. So this is total bullshit. 20. Sith cultists built the new fleet for decades, thanks to the fact that no one could find Exegol. Okay, that's fine, but notice that it says Sith cultists, not the Emperor. Whereas the story now is that Palpatine was on Exegol all these years, and he built this whole army, and he was going to give it to Kylo, which is bullshit because the book shows that they fucked up, that it was Sith cultists that built this fleet, not Palpatine. Palpatine is not in the conversation. Why? Because Palpatine died in Jedi, and they had admitted that until the last minute when they're trying to bring in Palpatine. What a mess. Number 22, Snoke knew that Rey and Kylo were a Force dyad, but considering that Palpatine didn't know that until the end, does this prove that Snoke was not controlled by Palpatine and had some degree of freedom and individuality? Yes, at the end of The Rise of Skywalker is when Palpatine realizes. He even says it. Oh, you guys are a Force dyad. And then he starts draining their life force.
My mother was the daughter of Vader. Your father was the son of the Emperor. What Palpatine doesn't know is we're a dyad in the Force, Rey. Two that are one.
The life force of your bond. A dyad in the Force. A power like life itself. Unseen for generations. And now, the power of two restores the one true Emperor.
If Snoke was a clone created by Palpatine, which is the so-called explanation now, then how would Snoke have known that they were a dyad? Snoke knew because he actually was the big bad and Palpatine wasn't supposed to be there. But the implication here is if Palpatine was controlling Snoke and Snoke knew they were a dyad, that means that Palpatine would have had to known they're a dyad. But in The Rise of Skywalker, he doesn't know to the last minute when Ben shows up that they're a dyad. So you see how they fucked it up again? They can't keep their own stuff straight. One more. Sith Wayfinders are a mixture of Force and technology. They can be used only by Darkside users, but they can be linked to a ship's navigational system. First of all, Wayfinders are holocrons. Those are Sith holocrons. We all know this. Anybody that knows Star Wars and expanded universe and the Star Wars story knows those damn Wayfinders are holocrons. I don't know why they came up with this Wayfinder nonsense. Even their own Rebels cartoon retcons them because Kanan Jarrus is talking to Bendu and there's a freaking Sith holocron there in that scene. It's ridiculous. These guys don't pay attention to their own canon. But what's also funny here is can only be used by Darkside user. Unless, of course, you're going to use it as a GPS. Well, then anybody can just plug it into a ship and use it for navigation. It's hilarious. If it can only be used by Darkside user, that's under all circumstances. An Ewok can't just come along and be like, oh, well, let me plug this into a ship and I can use it. That's not how it works. Sith holocrons can only be unlocked by Sith. Jedi holocrons can only be unlocked by Jedi, which is further confirmed in the Clone Wars cartoon. There's a whole episode of Cad Bane stealing a freaking Jedi holocron, and the only way he could get it unlocked was by getting a Jedi to do so. This is old lore. This is known from Expanded Universe for years that only Jedi can open and unlock Jedi holocrons, and only Sith can unlock Sith holocrons. This was discussed in the Darth Maul book and in several stories. This is a known Star Wars fact. And here they are saying they can be used only by Darkside users, but then they can be linked to a ship's navigational system. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And that's their justification of saying, well, only Kylo would have been able to use it. But since we had to make the story fit, Rey then gets Kylo's Wayfinder, when she's on Octu, remember she destroys the TIE fighter and Luke's like, wait a minute, the Wayfinder's still in there. And she goes in and gets the Wayfinder that Miss Mary Sue Force Powers didn't even know was in there, but she goes in and gets it. And then that's how she gets to Exegol. That's how she faces the Emperor, is by using the Sith holocron. So not only are they contradicting themselves in the same statement that it can only be used by dark side users, but it could be just plugged in as a GPS, but that also could be interpreted as, well, then Rey really is dark side, because if she could use the holocron or the Wayfinder. You see how Disney's all confused with their own story? It's like I've said in other videos, it's like a kid. They make a lie to cover another lie to cover another lie, and as they go, the story just gets bigger and grander and just more ridiculous, and they have to make up even bigger and more spectacular lies to cover up all the lies that preceded it. Why? All because of the first one little lie that they shouldn't have told. You tell one lie and now it's like dominoes. You have to tell another to cover your tracks. And this is what Disney has done from the beginning in every aspect of Star Wars, from lying to George Lucas to creating a new canon and a timeline, and then now making up all these stories that are retroactively damaging Star Wars lore, and now that they thought would just be like, it's okay, we could just create a new meaning and explanation. And now they're realizing that it's not that easy to wipe away over 35 years of rules. Now they're having to every other day lie to cover another lie to cover another lie. Whoever's over there doing their stuff, keeping track of the stuff, is an airhead and needs to be fired, because they are all over the place and retconning themselves now almost daily. Last thing I will leave you guys with for today, celebrating my birthday, is that The Rise of Skywalker, not only all-time domestic box office, but to reach $500 million, is ranked number 15. The conclusion of Star Wars is ranked number 15 all-time domestic box office, and to reach $500 million. What a joke. January 27th, $435,000. January 28th, $620,000. This movie is now ranked number 7 in the world. A Star Wars movie. Number 7 within 2 months of its release. It's unheard of. And it made $435,000. Would you imagine that a Star Wars movie in 2020 made by Disney would make under $500,000? Maybe 6 months down the road, but on January 27th, 39 days after release, $435,000. The numbers aren't in yet for today, but I suspect it's going to be somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000. We'll see, but it's really bad. Thank you, Disney and Lucasfilm, for a wonderful birthday. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the video. May the Force be with you.